This story is from Reddit user Blue Raindrops, so we're just going to call her Betsy. Betsy is new to the whole missing 411 phenomena, but since her sister introduced her to it recently, Betsy has decided to post what is easily the weirdest thing that has ever happened to her. Betsy is really an indoor person who just happened to grow up near a national forest on the border between North Carolina and Tennessee, and who just happened to marry a man who loves the outdoors. So like it or not, she's been roped into braving the wilderness more than a few times. Now, this particular event happened in the summer, shortly after the 4th of July at Clingmans Dome in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park in North Carolina. Betsy's husband had been hounding her forever that their whole family should go, including her and their 2 sons, which were now 6 and 8 years old. And they were not planning to stay overnight or anything. They just wanted to go for the day and check out the summit viewing deck. Now, for those of you who haven't been there, the viewing deck has several routes that you can take to get to it. But the most common way, which is the way that they took, is to drive in, park your car, and then take the mile or so hike up the hill up to the viewing deck. Super easy, but also super busy depending on the time of year. They go, get to the viewing deck, take some really amazing pictures, and hang out for a little bit. And after a while, they all decide it's time to head back. Now, here's where things start to get weird. Betsy's youngest child, the 6-year-old, has epilepsy and a migraine disorder. Now, he gets adult-level migraines, and he has had a constantly abnormal EEG and seizures since before his 2nd birthday. Now, thankfully, he's been seizure-free for 2.5 years, and his headaches are kept under control with medication. Clingmans Dome sits well above 6,000 feet, so it's always chilly at the top. But as they start heading back down, Betsy's son starts to complain that he feels really hot and that his head hurts. So Betsy tells her husband and the other son, you know what, you guys just go and explore and have fun. I'm just going to carry him back down to the car. She wasn't exactly eager to carry a 50-pound kid down the mountain, but she knew the best thing that they could do was to get him resting in the car with some air conditioning blowing on him and get him some of his headache meds before the migraine can get a foothold. And right as the family is about to part ways, Betsy makes a half-assed joke about sending the Rangers in to find them if she didn't make it back to the car shortly after they did. She says, considering the crappy shape I'm in, they may need to send in a golf cart for us. Betsy's husband and son start down the trail ahead, but they're still in sight, maybe a few hundred feet ahead of them. And maybe it was a lull in visitor levels, but Betsy looks around and doesn't see anyone else around. Betsy's son starts crying, saying both his head and his ears hurt now too, and he covers his ears. And at this point, the weight of him is just killing Betsy's arms. So she puts him down and says, we're just going to sit here and rest for just a few minutes. They walk off the paved trail and sit down at the edge of the tree line. And Betsy tells her son, why don't you just lay down on the cool grass and relax and close your eyes? We're almost there, honey. We just need to rest for a minute. She gets her phone out to text her husband that they are going to take a little rest. And she's startled at how loud her texting sounds. And she realizes that's because everything else around her is completely silent. There's no wind, no bugs, dead quiet. It's like somebody pressed pause on the whole area, or that the forest is holding its breath. Betsy's mother was always paranoid about tornadoes and spent years pounding it into Betsy's head as a child that there is a calm before the storm thing that happens right before a tornado comes. So that's Betsy's first thought. Holy crap, a tornado is about to happen because everything just went dead. Her kid is now curled up beside her, whimpering that he is scared. His ears hurt. Make it stop. He just wants to go home. And it is so quiet around them that his little voice seems to boom around them like the voice of Zeus or something. Now, by now, the hair on the back of Betsy's neck is standing up, and she just has a general sick, nervous feeling, thinking that a tornado is about to drop out of the sky and suck them up. Betsy actually starts to feel afraid, even to just look around her, and she just tries to focus on calming her son down. The area has developed this ominous, heavy feeling that she can't quite explain. She's afraid to look around because she's afraid she won't like what she sees. Like when you're a kid and you're afraid to look under your bed at night or something. They've been resting for about 10 minutes or so when Betsy gets a really strong, almost primal urge to get the hell out of there and get down that trail. She pulls herself together, picks up her still crying kid, and literally runs the rest of the way down the hill. When they finally get back to the car, Betsy's husband and other son are nowhere to be found, and he has the keys, so they have to wait. And at this point, it's only their car and 2 other cars still in the parking lot. Betsy just assumes that her husband and son have taken a different path, a harder trail maybe that's going to take them a little bit longer. So she sets the 6-year-old on the hood of the car and prepares for the wait. Betsy's still feeling some leftover heebie-jeebies from the creepy quiet while they were resting off the trail. But at least her son is no longer complaining about his ears or his head. After a few seconds, the oldest son comes racing down the same trail they had just come down with a look of sheer panic on his face. He turns his head and starts screaming up the trail, "I found them! They're here!" Betsy's husband comes into view not even a minute later. She can tell her older son's been crying, and her husband immediately starts screaming at them. "Where the hell have you been? Are you okay?" Betsy says, "What's your issue? I sent you a text saying that we're going to rest a little while off the edge of the trail." Now here's what makes Betsy's blood run cold. He tells her they have been looking for them for over 3 hours. Betsy says, "You're lying. It probably just feels like hours. We were only resting for about 10 minutes. But after checking their phones and the clock in the car, it turns out they really had been gone for about 3.5 hours. Betsy's husband and other son said, "We went up and down the trail to the viewing deck 3 or 4 times looking for you, calling your names." And Betsy's thinking, that's impossible. The sound up there carries forever. There's no way we wouldn't have heard them. Betsy sets that thought aside for later and turns to her younger son to see if he still needs his migraine medication. And he says the noise making his head hurt is gone and he's fine now. Betsy's husband asks, "What noise?" And he tells his dad that it sounded like he had a big bumblebee inside of his head. Well, after a few deep breaths and some confused looks all around, they all waste no time in piling into the car and hauling out of there as fast as they can. Needless to say, they haven't been back to that area again, and Betsy's husband is no longer a fan of the woods like he used to be either. Now, normally, this would be the end of the story, but it's not. Betsy's son's migraines and seizure activity on his EEGs stop after this. It's like his brain's been reset. He hasn't even had a mild headache since then. He has been deemed in remission from his neurologist because his brainwaves have remained pristine. Betsy's husband thinks it's a coincidence, but Betsy doesn't.